They just didn't bother doing
Yeah,
that.
well, I can't get into that right now.
They must have had a meeting today because we got a memo from the school committee this afternoon, right? It was
I didn't
signed-
see it.
It was signed by the school committee.
Hello, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for April 11, 2016. Tonight, we're a little early at 6 o'clock. We will be going into executive session for the value of land, Cooper Farm, 180 Great Road. I'd look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 21A, Clause 6, to go into executive session to consider the value of real property, since an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the board's negotiating position relative to the Cooper Farm property at 180 Great Road, and to convene an open session thereafter.
Mr. Knox?
Well put.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Mr. Knox?
Aye.
Ms. Hebert? Ms. Carr, aye. Mr. Vella? Mr. DeCoste?
Aye.
We are now in executive session and will be returning. Thank you. Hello and welcome back to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for Monday, April 11th. Is PJ out in the hallway there? Tonight, we were in executive session at 6 o'clock. We are now out of that executive session. Mr. Avella, would you lead us in the pledge, please? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, tonight's agenda, 6:30 organization pledge and read mail, 6:35. We have a joint meeting with School Committee, Finance Committee, and the Community Preservation Committee to go over the budget for FY17. At 7:15, public input and members' updates. 7:20, town board appointments. 7:50, we have our May 2nd annual and special town meeting recommendations and assignments of articles. 8:30, we have Cooper Farm discussion on 180 Great Road. 8:50, town administrator, assistant town administrator, Mass Dot Complete Streets, New Estate Road Construction Administration, issue the warrant and dedicate the annual town report. 9 o'clock, minutes approval, other business. Mr. Bergman, mail.
Mr. Chairman, a few things. First, we have the allotment in Chapter 90 funds that's been made available by the Baker Polito administration. The number this year for Littleton is going to be $395,107. That's up a little bit from a similar amount we got this year. That comes from our share of a $200 million statewide bond issue. Some other things going on. Tomorrow night is a presentation in Concord, in Acton rather, on the north-south rail link. That is the proposed link between North Station and South Station. Of interest to some. I'm interested. Former Governor Mike Dukakis will be there tomorrow night. And on Wednesday night, we have the Dukakis Center, no relation. Well, actually, there's a relation, of Northeastern, which will be hosting our discussion about the EDSAT, the Economic Development Self-Assessment Tool. The EDSAT is at the police station at 7 p.m. on Wednesday night, April 13th. Also coming up on April 13th from 10 a.m. to noon is a senior center grand reopening, which the Elder and Human Services is sponsoring. And also a reminder that the MAPC Magic Subregion is holding its annual legislative breakfast. It's been rescheduled to Friday, April 29th at 8 a.m., and it's going to be held at Old Bedford Town Hall, and we have a number of our legislators who are signed up to go to that. That's it.
Thank you very much. So, let's take, Finance Committee, you got a quorum, yes? No? Okay, we got a school committee quorum. Let's take the school committee, budget up first. I know Friday there was discussion between, the school and the town, so, Bonnie, why don't you give us an update of that, and then Mike will, roll right into the budget.
Great. As of Friday morning, we had met with the school committee chair at about 10 o'clock in the morning in my office, or in the finance offices, Steve Venuti and Betsy Bowling, who's the chair of the finance committee. And it was agreed at that time that the school appropriation would increase by $700,000 for the fiscal 2017 operating budget to go to a total of $17,950,000. Towards the total spending plan of $21,422,271 for 2017. So it's a combination of town meeting appropriation plus other revolving accounts, reserves, and that was also combined with a separate net increase of $50,000 in capital funding. We increased an article for materials and resources by $100,000, and in exchange, there was some funding supplied by Tigers Den for some paving against a town appropriated article that was reduced. So with that total appropriation, the 2017 budget, which I attached a summary, would remain in balance with a small surplus of about $54,000 based on the current estimates. One of the directives that the board had asked me to do was to review the current revenue estimates based on March 31st. We were rapidly trying to close the figures all last week, so we were able to do that. And I thank the collection staff and treasurer to be able to help me to do that. What we did is I looked through all of the quarterly estimates against the actuals. There were some areas that we lost revenue and some that we gained. And I'll just walk you through briefly in that. In looking through the quarterlies, we realized that with the permits currently in process, we lost about $44,000 in new growth estimates based on the current status. We were able to go through some of the other accounts and pick up an increase in building department permit fees based on projects that are currently in the pipeline of about $50,000. An increase in meals tax of $20,000 based on where we are for March 31st, and with the new restaurants coming online, and an increase in motor vehicle excise receipts of about $28,000 based on the commitments that have come through the registry to date. So that nets out to about the $54,000 that you see in the remaining surplus. I would caution, there's a big component that I'm missing, and that is the state aid and assessment figures. In one particular year, I think it was 14 to 15, I had about $150,000 swing in one of the assessments for charter school out tuition. You know, if there's a similar swing like that, I would lose the 50 that I have here, plus, you know, other receipts will degrade. So I would caution against appropriating it because I haven't received any updated figures from the state at this point. And I did do a summary of where the operating budget stands for staffing. Just quickly, there's a 2 FTE increase in the school department, the highway engineering staffing position, which is budget neutral, but an FTE increase, additional hours in the town clerk's office, veterans agent's office, and a patrol officer.
All right. So focusing on the school, Mike, unfortunately, I couldn't make it to that meeting. I would have liked to be there, but, and Betsy, then I'll jump to you. What interpretations of the meeting and?
So, right, on Friday morning, based on the information that we had, Bonnie had mentioned that she had seen or identified a reduction in the new growth receipts. So it looked like the effort to identify potential increases in the revenue estimates, which we had asked her to do the last time the three boards got together, didn't seem like it was going to have much fruition. So at that point, it seemed reasonable to, go with the $700,000 increase in appropriation. However, seeing on Friday afternoon that number had moved significantly and actually became from a deficit towards a surplus. If we'd had that information on Friday morning, we certainly would have had a different perspective from the school committee perspective relative to what we had agreed to talk about at the last meeting. Given that there is a surplus identified, and what we had talked about here a few weeks ago was that if that was the case, then that would be pushed towards the $100,000 gap. We were looking for an $800,000 increase in the appropriation. We had identified $700,000. If we can close that gap with the $50,000 surplus, that will, cut down on the reliance on school choice that we had identified. So at this point, I would like to talk about what we agreed upon a few weeks ago relative to that budget surplus that's been identified. That's kind of what we were hoping for. Obviously, we were hoping for, maybe the whole $100,000 gap. Doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. But if half that gap is closed, that would be significant in our eyes.
All right, Betsy?
Yeah, I think what Mike said is that was a conversation. From my standpoint, there's still a lot of, based on who's doing the analysis, there's a lot of different interpretation of how much the revolving funds need to be used and so on. But the school department at that point owns that budget. And we did agree a couple weeks ago that if there was additional money to be found, it would go to the school department. So I really wish the process were better and that we all were comfortable with the same numbers. But I think based on what was agreed, that we should proceed as Mike suggests at this point. It's way late in the process to be having this conversation.
Right. Board members, comments, questions?
I should also say, that's Betsy Bowling saying that. My committee's not here. Okay? I don't think I have a quorum at this point. Yeah, but I need 4, right? I've got 3.
Okay.
I'll just echo what Betsy has said, that I think we did come to an agreement, the 3 boards together, that if the funds were found, that we would use those funds to reduce the $100,000 gap. So.
PJ, any comments?
Yeah, I think Betsy and Chuck both articulated it as, at least I understood it, when we had this last meeting, and that if additional revenue was discovered. Now, certainly there's risk associated with it. There's risk associated with all our projections, both pluses and minuses. We're in April. That was maybe 3 years ago. We didn't even have a state budget until after July 1st, beyond the constitutional mandate. Nevertheless, those sorts of things happen, and we deal with it. So each town meeting, for the most part, we've gone in with, I think, pretty close to the 99th percentile in all my experience here in town, with that one little bit waiting for a final state budget, because it does impact us. So there's always been some risk in that regard. And it often just falls into that same level, for me personally, that same tolerance or risk tolerance as we've had in the past. So I would support the 50K headed towards the schools, so that the motion we would make tonight would include 750 for the schools instead of 700.
So my only comment, and I'll go to you guys. My only comment would be is, as Bonnie said, if there are mandates that come down and numbers drastically change, that we can at least agree in concept here tonight that if we get a $200,000 issue coming down, let's sit back down and see what, both the 3 boards can sit down and talk about, so we're not going deficient.
Yeah, in terms of PJ's, assessment on risk tolerance and Bonnie's comment about, things can change, and often, not often, but sometimes dramatically. And I would say on the same side, if the news is better than we thought it was going to be, then I would ask all of us to sit down again and think about what's the best way to deal with good news. And if it unfortunately has a situation where we have to sit down and discuss what to do with the bad news, so be it. But either way, I would say, yeah, we would expect to sit down and figure it out together.
Okay.
That was my only
Melissa?
comment. In principle, we agree, but if things change, we gotta talk, so.
Okay.
All right, any other comments, board members, your boards? Finance committee, any comments? I know you're not at home, but I take any issues or comments?
The only comment I would like to make, I meant to mention this in my opening remarks, is with if you guys go ahead and vote that increase and the appropriation would go up to 18 million, we would expect to still be spending about 532,000, 533,000 based on our current budget model in school choice, and expecting to receive $400,000 in receipts. So we're still in a deficit situation unless things change, whether it's on the revenue side or on our expenditure side. At some point, we still would have to figure this out, and we talked about this at the last meeting too, and I think it was Fred that brought up the point that not only should we should sit down, maybe talk about what's happening, but talk about some long-term planning relative to what our tolerance is or what our goal is to setting reserves against these revolving funds, in which we would agree needs to be done, especially considering we are, even with this $50,000 increase, this isn't really solving the whole problem, it's just mitigating it. We're still in a deficit situation in terms of how much we expect to spend out of that revolving account versus how much is going to come in this year.
My only comment to that, Mike, is, and we had a conversation earlier, is, that number has changed quite a bit from the start of this process, and we agreed to 483 at our last meeting, looking for the 100,000. So I guess and we had this conversation about budgeting, we started at the beginning of the year. I'd like to see some type of mid-year spending plan from the schools.
And in the memo that
You know?
I sent this afternoon, what we would expect to do is we get regular updates as we go through the actual fiscal year relative to where our spending ends up and how we fund that spending. And we would certainly be giving you guys updates on, we're projecting $533,000 out of school choice. If that goes down, we'll let you know. If it goes up, we'll let you know.
Just for that, it's getting better. I just don't think we're that open line of communication. We're getting better, we're just not there yet. And that's the only comment I'd have to that,
And I would add to that, if we get to the point where we can do regular reporting, including actuals, it's not just appropriation, everyone will be more comfortable with the numbers, it'll be a lot easier to move forward.
Right. Any other comment? I would look for a motion.
So just change to 750 yearly.
Yeah, and the total amount would increase from 38,511 to 38,561.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to recommend May 2nd, 2016 Annual Town Meeting Article 4 FY 2017 operating budget in the total net amount of $38,561,277, including an increase of $750,000 for the school committee's town meeting appropriation.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. So the next item is the CPA, Community Preservation. I see we have a quorum here, very good. Our previous meetings, we talked about the blending of funds with the total amount going into the different buckets. We have a breakdown that Mr. Bergman's gonna be pulling up. Mick, you wanna talk to this?
I prefer Keith lead on it.
Okay, I'll start on a couple of things. First, the town of Littleton we fully implemented the so-called Blended Community Preservation Act last year, and it resulted in our receiving an additional $200,000 in state aid, CPA state matching aid, because we were able to achieve, because we were able to be treated as a 3% community by the state, even though our surcharge is only 1%. And by that I mean that for communities that have a CPA surcharge of full 3%, they get maximum state reimbursements because there are a total of 3 funding rounds that they get state matching funds in. And in Littleton's case, we were able to get about $65,000 in additional funding simply by reaching the 3%. We went from 68,000 one year to 202,000 in round one a year later, and then got another 65,000 on top of that. So if we can achieve the goal, the target of finding the maximum local funds to put in to match our 1% surcharge with an equivalent of 2% in additional funds, we reach the 3% level and we get maximum funding. And this shows how we achieved that. Last year, that we had identified in fiscal 2015, we had identified about $450,000 in funds we could put in, and for that we received additional state matching funds this past October. The funds in fiscal 2015 came from a few sources, $143,000 from the Newtown cell tower funds, which are earmarked for open space, $46,000 from the Reed Meadow host community agreement, which is earmarked for housing, and then another $265,000, which came from the 15 Great Road Host Community Agreement. So all of those things together, we were able to achieve the 2% goal. This year, we're very close to reaching the total of $484,000. And I actually have a high level of confidence that we'll be getting additional mitigation funds in the next few weeks. It's between now and May 2nd that we'd have to receive them. Just in the last month, we had the gap that we'd identified between additional funds that we have on hand versus what we would need to add to reach our target. It was $138,000 was the gap a month ago. That gap has now been reduced to $15,000, and we've seen a flurry of activity of sales of lots that result in mitigation payments to the town. And based on what the regulatory department says is the status of some certificates of occupancy that are ready to go out on some of the remaining lots, we have a high level of confidence we can reach that total by May 2nd. Assuming that we do, and by the way, just for projecting for fiscal 2017, we think we could do it a third year in a row. That has reached the target that a year from now, in fact, it may even be a few months from now, we would anticipate having the $300,000 mitigation payment from Potpourri Group, which is due and payable once they occupy their new building, which is expected later this year. So that, together with the other monies, we think that we may have at least 3 years in a row where we can reach the maximum amount. So for this year, looking at a target of reaching the target maximum of $484,000, what we wanted to discuss tonight was how should those funds be divided up, into which buckets should they go in the Community Preservation Fund. A year ago, when we reached the total of $454,000, we had the money went, as is shown here, $143,000 to open space, $46,000 to housing, $65,000 to historic, and $200,000 went to recreation. At its meeting last week, the Community Preservation Committee met to adopt a recommendation to bring to our joint meeting tonight, and your recommendation was that 55% of the total amount, $484,000, 55% of that should go to open space, is your recommendation, and that 15% each should go to housing, historic, and recreation. So, and those numbers translate as shown here on this $266,000 for open space, and then $72,600 each to housing.
So my question is, the mitigation funds are usually, or some have specific criteria. So it's all good to have that broken down CPA wants, or CPC wants.
Yep.
What are the actual mitigation funds coming in?
Yep.
What do they reference as far as any type of HCA? And are they going in the right buckets?
Right. And so, and the answer to that, this is a proposed draft motion for if we were to adopt, for the sake of argument, the numbers that the Community Preservation Committee has recommended. Those figures would be met as shown here. And on item 1, for example, the amount that goes into the CPA open space reserve, of that, 78,606. There, let me try to. Yeah, the 78,606 comes from the cell tower funds that are earmarked for open space. They can only go to open space, so that's one. The other is
Where's the balance of the 100
and the balance would come from the only other source that we have is 15 Gray Road.
Okay.
HCA, which is unrestricted. It's unrestricted. The only other restricted amount on this list is the $23,800 from the Reed Meadow mitigation. That's earmarked for housing. We think we've got at least, we think we've got one final payment that will come to us from that source, that there were 4 lots, or 4 units, I should say. This represents the third of 4 units for which we've received payment. For the fourth and final unit, we'll get in another $23,800. If we had it now, I would have the total in this item, and that the total of the 2 would be proposed to go to housing, but we don't have it yet. And then the other amounts are all proposed to come from the 15 Gray Road Mitigation Reserve, which is unrestricted and can be whichever purpose the board's wish.
Right. Comments, members?
Yeah, I'm just trying to do some quick math, so I'm just curious why the split is the way it is, and I'm just asking just to understand. So it's, if 78 is for open space, then, so 188, put a lot in that bucket, and then kind of evenly spread out the rest, I'd say, 15, 15, 15. So
Sure.
take me through a little bit of your thought process.
Yeah. Thank you for your question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thanks, Keith, for going over the numbers. The Community Preservation Committee has 5 members here tonight. 6. To answer your question, we were looking at, we have certain restrictions that you're all aware of in terms of the rule of 10, 10, 10 being spent on open space, 10% that is, of all revenue on open space, housing, and historic resources.
Open space recreation. Yes?
Open
Well,
space.
Well, the statute only has 10, 10, and 10, and doesn't give one of the 10s to recreation. That's a voluntary contribution.
So then, following that rule, in the past, we've always had 70% unrestricted that was used at our discretion or awarded at our discretion. And each year, we would usually spend most of our money, sometimes savings in off years, but in the end, typically, our budget has gone down or close to 0. So just a little more history, if you will, Mr. Chair, that our committee has been recommended that we try to afford some savings for the future, but more importantly, just some direction for where we want to spend money according to certain categories, so that we can be in partnership with the goals of town hall, so to speak, to have a forward-looking spending plan that is long-range and also takes into consideration capital monies. So when that's done, and we're largely willing to engage in that, especially because the 2% funds that, as Keith described, augment our revenues up to 3%. Those monies are made available through the creative resourcing of folks at Town Hall. It's a win-win to have the pot, so to speak, grow bigger. And the same rules for spending apply to those as well. The 10-10-10 rule applies to any revenue. But since a lot of our revenue source has grown recently, and we have stuff that is automatically going into savings as we move forward to the next year, we wanted to think about what we'd recommend before we have a program of looking at community resources every so often, not community resources, community input for our spending, something that we're engaged in this year and the coming year to try and get an idea of what various stakeholders in the town want. We've looked back at our historic spending, and so this is answering the question that the 55, 15, 15, 15 split comes about through looking back at our historic spending, and that largely what we found was that about 55 or 56% up until 2016 was spent on open space projects. About 6% was spent on housing, and which means that housing has managed to accumulate a bit of a savings because there's 10% that's reserved for them. So assuming they'd spend the 10% and then a little more, that brought up to 15%, and then if we split the others the other way, they roughly fell into place in the same way. The newcomer, so to speak, to the categories is definitely recreation, and recreation was around 10 or 15% historically, with a real flurry of spending recently, especially because some of the allowable spending was only recently done since the CPA got amended. So some of the recent spending on recreation, it might be notable or worth noting that we spent a lot on recreation recently, but if you look back and add it all up, back to 2009, it's about equal to that 15% rule. They're a little bit above it. So it's spreading it out. It felt really important to give additional money to housing because the 6% they've been spending is largely just on repairs and stuff, and it would be nice to have money available for bigger projects that might involve increasing housing. That's sort of a rationale. I haven't talked on all the categories, but that gives you an idea. It was based on historic spending.
Very helpful, thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Knox, any questions?
Just one comment. I know years ago when they first talked about 15 Great Road and the Community Preservation Act, I mean the ACA, and a lot of people spoke against it. At least people can see now that we did gain something out of that, and that's gained some money from the state. That it's not a lot, but we wouldn't have all these funds now if it wasn't for that agreement. Thank you.
It's $200,000 a year, actually, because we've been able to put those mitigation funds in.
Is that much?
It is a lot.
Mr. Ravello?
It's all covered.
Mr. DeCoste? My only comment would be, I get your theory behind it. I guess, and I know when you start talking open space, there are always big ticket items when you start talking open space. The buzz around town though with athletic fields and doing some stuff, I don't know.
That falls under that bucket though, doesn't it?
It does, but, a little bump in that, other than the 15% would have been my option.
If I may, just
Sure.
a reminder that the numbers that these percentages or this split really only applies as a one-time thing for this
Right.
round of funding. And I think the round of funding, it is, Keith's graphs reflect really explosive growth, and we're going to have a big bucket, but I haven't seen projections that go far beyond that because I don't know that the town is negotiating sizable things. So
1 year from now, we've got
good.
revenues. 2 years from now, it's,
Right.
we may not be able to reach that level.
That just goes back down to the 1%, I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And recreation was the big winner. Last year, for example, it was, if you look at.
But that's because the
distribution.
HCA specifically spoke about it.
Yeah, for the first one.
That's why,
Yeah.
where it's open and there was no designation to it. My thought is, the 15% was light, but that's just me.
So to that point, so if we go with this now and then we see, based on projects, pipeline, feedback, that kind of thing, next year you could change your percentage allocation.
Well, not only that, but if you, and unless Bonnie corrects me, that at any town meeting, you could transfer the funds from one of these buckets to another bucket. Yeah, so let's say if the world changed suddenly and
Yep.
something became available and we hadn't planned on it, yet we needed funds from a particular bucket, the Community Preservation Committee could bring a recommendation forward to town meeting to move the funds from one of these lines to another.
That's new to me, so
As long as the funds weren't restricted, so like the 100,000 that was restricted for active recreation could not be moved.
Right.
out of
Right,
active
right,
recreation.
Or
The other-
or this year, the 28,000.
any of
for
the,
housing.
any of the extra, we can
Right.
transfer out, get it.
So
that
anything
makes
that
me
came
feel
from the 15 Great Road could be
Sure.
moved around.
Right, and so this, as a bookkeeping sort
Sure,
of
gotcha.
philosophy.
I'm with
This
you.
helps us, and if we did end up saving the money for future years, it could also be undone by community preservation vote. It would just have to be another year, and then it would have to go through, I think that it would have to go through another town meeting cycle.
Yes.
Whether it went to the floor town meeting or to our meeting, if we had money that had already been revenue and was in a pot, it can be moved around.
Good to know. Thank you. Any other comments?
I just wanted to show one
Sure.
other statistic that Bonnie generated today, because I think it's interesting that we're projecting that we'll have available fund balances totaling 1.4 million in CPA funds
That's
by
awesome.
July 1. If you put this money in the special and adopt the spending plan in the annual, we'll still have $1.4 million
Nice.
in the kitty.
Does this include the match, or is it the match?
No, that does not include the
because
match.
it comes in
That does
later?
not include the match that we will get
So
in
that's-
October.
That's without this year's
Yeah.
match.
Nice.
That's good.
Nice, that's good news.
It's better than a kick in the head.
That's why we have Fred.
We set a high bar.
Kick people in the head.
Any other comments from your committee members? Okay. Look for a motion.
Okay, this whole thing, huh?
You're good luck. It's a
All
big
right.
one.
This could take a while.
As written.
All right, get comfortable. Move that the Board of Selectmen Community Preservation Committee and Finance Committee vote to recommend that May 2nd, 2016 special town meeting article, 2016, that's right, yeah, or 2017? Is it referencing the past?
What's that?
No, it's the May 2nd, 2016 special.
Oh, okay, it's just, okay, sorry.
It's because it's the special.
Recommend that the May 2nd, 2016 special town meeting, Article 5, transfer to the Community Preservation Fund additional municipal revenues totaling $484,434. One, $266,439, or 55%, to the CPA Open Space Reserve for conservation and passive recreation purposes, of which $78,606 is from the Conservation Land Acquisition Funds established by Article 1 of the June 15th, 2000 special town meeting for cell tower leases at Newtown Hill, and $187,833 is from the 15 Great Road Mitigation Reserve for appropriation. Two, $72,665, or 15%, to the CPA Community Housing Reserve, of which $23,800 is from the Reed Meadow Mitigation Reserve for appropriation, and $48,865 is from the 15 Great Road Mitigation Reserve for appropriation. Three, $72,665, or 15%, to the CPA Historic Reserve from Resources Reserve from the 15 Great Road Mitigation Reserve for appropriation. And four, $72,665, or 15%, to the CPA Recreation Reserve from the 15 Great Road Mitigation Reserve for appropriation.
Before we second that, if I could.
Yeah,
Mr.
absolutely,
Chairman.
go ahead.
Okay, so, this is calling out specifically to the point that you raised about recreation. It was my understanding that the first bucket was recreation as a whole, not necessarily just passive recreation. And so, but now I'm seeing that 4 is
No, the first bucket is open space.
open space, which includes recreation, right? Open space
No,
reserve.
no, conservation and passive recreation. So active recreation would
So
only
that's,
come
that's,
in
that's
category
that's from the
4.
change.
Active recreation is the language.
So I did ask that question when we were having discussion, and I thought that gave me a head nod. But, so I share your concerns about the 15% towards active recreation, because that is something that we are very much looking at. It's very much before us. So I do have some reservations about that distribution.
I think, to hear tonight from me, that at a November town meeting, at a annual or special
We can-
town
we can
meeting,
move the money.
we have an ability, based on what the CPC folks see, projects coming before them, if they see a big one for recreation, if they see a big one for housing, and the bucket just isn't there for it to make a transfer, I'd be okay. That's why I'm okay with it, you know?
Okay.
We have the ability to transfer, but your opinion, go ahead.
Now, that being said, I do have some reservations about it. I think it should be distributed differently.
You
There is a motion on the floor, it hasn't been seconded, but I do. Were there any deliberations, Mitt, relative to a different distribution?
There were a few. It was, somebody referred to it as, or referred to a 50, 16 and a 2/3% kind of split, similar, but with the 50 being the cutoff point around open space.
So 50 for open space, and then distributed evenly amongst the other three buckets?
Yeah. One of the things discussed in terms of, on a subjective matter, in terms of, speaking in favor of open space, it was I that said that I think of the goals of community preservation, of course encompassing real things to preserve for the future. One of the ones that's really core, well, open space is one of the core goals of the program, and that it's no accident that our revenue source in this case is generated by mitigation funds from development. So as we see lands being eaten up, so to speak, we also see a trickle of money, which would be putting a finger in the dike, if you will.
Which is the whole purpose for the
to speak
CPA,
metaphorically.
right? To avoid
That's how the
sprawl.
argument sort of went, and so that was one of the types of comments made in support of the split.
Jim, speaking as a member of the CPC now, I think your questions are really good ones. The CPC, oftentimes, it seems to me, is working in a vacuum because we don't get much in the way of any forward-looking plans from conservation, from recreation, from housing. This year, we've reacted to a number of really bad situations up here on Pine Tree Park. The state is not funding what they should be on Pine Tree Park. So we're stepping in to try to keep those things from falling down. But again, if there are discussions on potential recreation projects or potential open space projects, if we could be involved in some of the earlier discussions, then we could sort of help manipulate some of the thinking here on how we would structure next year's money, for example. So I think your questions are right on point. And again, we look to you guys to, give us some input on what you see coming down the pike, whether it's open space, whether it's recreation or community housing, we've covered pretty well. But the others, we really don't get much in the way of input.
Okay, thank you.
I'm ready to second.
Just hold on, just,
Yeah, go ahead.
that being said, is there a need then to put more towards housing? I mean, there's, unfortunately, we're having this conversation right now, and I apologize that I misunderstood.
It's a general for an
allocation.
alternative,
Pardon?
or for an alternative. I think the numbers are wrong. Maybe
Right.
$10,000 one way or the other.
No, I mean, we're arguing over, not arguing over, but I'm deliberating over some, like you're saying, $10,000 here or there. But if in fact that is a real need, and it's been identified as a real need, are we being hasty in making this movement? Maybe we should have more of those funds go towards housing and not towards recreation at all. It should be going towards housing, because that's the most immediate need, and it's something that's before us presently. And I'll look to you guys for the guidance, and Fred, maybe you can talk to this as well, as to what numbers are necessary in order to make the improvements needed to make at Pine Tree Park.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Bartlett Harvey, I'm on the Housing Board as well as this committee. It's really difficult to plan for housing because the state is supposed to do all of the funding and they don't, and we don't know to what extent they will fund. The housing would love to get extra money. We'd like to have, set up a savings account to buy more units, that we could expand the housing base in the town. We can, spend any money that we can get, but I don't think I don't think at this point housing is more critical than recreation or open space or the other categories.
And I don't think that if we did kind of move some of this money around, I don't think that's gonna solve the problems of purchasing more units, certainly not going to. But if there are some improvements that need to be done right now, maybe some of these funds can be used for that.
Well, that was the intent of the slush fund, the $20,000, the undesignated funds for housing. We've spent half of that already, and we know what it's going for.
And also under this, if you look at the historic numbers, housing has been at about a 6% funding level from the fund, and this would bring it up to 15, which more than doubles what it has.
Right.
And ideally, some of that would go to savings, but it's another big ticket type item to create housing. But I think at least in the short term, in the next year, we'd be able to cover the types of things we've been regularly spending. For the past 3 or 4 years, it's been pretty regular spending in the housing area for repairs, major repairs, and like Clark mentioned, emergency funds.
Thank you.
Good, Fred.
This
will be our last comment, then I'll ask for a second.
For this year, I'm sorry, for this year, I would leave it the way it was proposed. But again, housing, we don't have a plan for housing. This year, we reacted to some crises. We haven't seen really a plan for either recreation or conservation to do any, forward-thinking planning here. So that's really my only point here, is that if we can get people to think about more than just this year, but the next 3 years, 5 years, and then work with us on it, then I think, we could be, to your point, putting money in one versus the other, or having that discussion. Right now, with the lack of anything happening, any information on next year or the year after, we're kind of flying blind here, just sort of the way you guys are on this.
So I do appreciate all the input, and I think, we're talking about $50,000 or $70,000 difference here, so I appreciate your time hearing me out, and I'll second the motion.
Been moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, moving on,
FinCom doesn't have a quorum yet, do you?
You know.
Did you want to take a vote on this, so we can record it in the booklet that goes out tomorrow?
Yep,
Tom, all right.
okay. Hartman.
4-0.
Oh, yes?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Okay.
So you're in favor
Yes.
as well, thank you. And so it shall read, thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. 7:15, public input, do we have any public input? Seeing none, member updates, Mr. DeCoste.
I'm good right now, thank you.
Very good, Mr. Ravello.
Red Sox open at Fenway today, not the result we wished for certain, but gosh dang it, every first week in April offers us new hope. We always dream and think that things will get better, and we're still on that bandwagon, even at 3-3 record for the season. Go Sox.
Thank you.
I have 3 things,
Melissa?
if you don't mind. Mr.
Absolutely.
Chair. So just 3 things from my side. A bit of a sad day, a fellow Littleton alumni passed away, Jess Snyder, Jess Grady, her wake's just tonight, so I just want to give my condolences to her family, mother of 3, a year younger than I am, so very sad day, so my heart goes out to that family. 2 other quick things. Last weekend was the annual Littleton Chess Tournament. It was very successful, a very fun day, saw some familiar faces, so thanks to everyone that came out and played and supported. And then lastly, great job to the fire department, who did a very good kind of update meeting with the abutters on the plans for the fire station. It was on Periscope, one of the, I think, the first teams to use the live streaming device. So they did a great job. Thank you, Chief, for that.
That was talk of the town too, right?
Yes, we were down there. That's right.
Nice. Mr. Knox?
Selectman Carr, you're probably going to speak on this too, but I just want to, Selectman Carr and myself had the opportunity this past Saturday to attend, observe, and partake in the police department's active threat response training. I went down there to observe and take pictures, and suddenly I was part of what was going on. But I do want to say that the training was intense, and to see the knowledge that has been gained by sending some of our officers off to school and bringing that knowledge back to something that could actually happen in town was very worthwhile, because all the officers that were there went through at least 2 different scenarios. I did one of the scenarios, I think Mr. Carr did too, and I'll let you speak on it, but I can honestly say, a lot of times you hear in the news, oh, it was a split-second decision, and my heart was going like this, going down the school hall, trying to find a shooter, that not knowing where it's going to be, knowing that there was no real bullets and no one was going to get killed, but to do that and to see what they men and women in blue have to go through was unbelievable, because when it was all done, I turned and said, I know why I sell real estate. It was eye-opening for me, and I want to thank the chief and the deputy and all the instructors that you had there. I thought it was tremendous. The students that took place in it, and the teachers that took place on it, and the enactment was unbelievable. Jim, you can explain the second one, but I just want to do it. I filmed part of that, to have an officer approach a situation like that where a teacher opens a door and says there's a shooter inside, and students are flying by you, and you have to walk through that, not knowing one of the students might have a gun, and what goes forth. It was just eye-opening. I just want to thank you, and what a great job they did.
So I got a couple training comments. The week prior to that, there was a fire department training session where a resident in town donated a house, actually had to clean out the house, do an asbestos abatement, paid for it, so that the fire department could go in and do training. I was fortunate enough to ask the chief if I could get involved in that, not as a firefighter, but as a observer. And I was able to do that, and I had my son's GoPro. And to see how these guys, the men and women of the fire department, have to respond and to run into a building that's on fire. You know, it's on fire, and to see the flames coming across the ceiling, and with no hesitation come in and attack a fire, it's amazing. And as Joe says, the ticker gets going. It gets a little excited. It gets a lot of hot and a lot smoky, and it's pretty intense as to see how these folks have to respond to a building that's on fire. Joe Cataldo is the individual that donated the house, and to hear the firefighters coming out of the house after their session was over, I caught a comment from one of our full-timers that has been on the force with the department for 6 years. We've never had a house fire in Littleton in the past 6 years, you know, so this real-time training, this type of training is unbelievable. And, you know, they have to respond to it. They don't know what they're going into, so they did a great job. Thanks to the Cataldos Fire Department. Chief McCurdy out of Groton. Groton was there also. As Joe said, well orchestrated. They know exactly what was going on, and it was pretty impressive. So last Saturday, as Joe said, I got to participate in the training also. And to tell you, it was scary. It was eye-opening to be, fortunately, I had one of the airsoft guns, and to be walking in, to have kids rushing by you, screaming, shooter, to see kids laying on the floor, it's scary. It's really scary. I took a video, I showed it to Charlene, and she got all nervous just to see the video of an enactment in our high school. To go the 40 yards, you had to go to the active shooter. To say I was tired, out of breath, scared, the sense of emotions that you went through, you know, again, the men and women of the police department, and, you know, it's that quick. You need to react that quick. This training was done, it's a new thought process now for active shooters for the PD, and this is great training for them. The kids were motivated. It's good to see the kids of the high school get motivated in a training session like this. Their participation, the teachers' participation was awesome. Chief, the deputy, and all the members of the department did a great job. So it's scary, fun, all in one. And the sense of emotions you go through is just incredible. So great job by our public safety departments for the past 2 weeks. And thank you for letting us get involved.
Chief, I just would like to pass on again my thanks to the school department, especially the students and the teachers, because without the role players, the training would not, just wouldn't take on the realism that it needs. And the schools have been great to work with. I think next year, Chief Wazinski and I are talking, and we're going to bring in the next steps of rescues also, with EMTs going in with officers and dragging people out off the floor and things of that nature. It's like you said, it's that new, the new way of how we do things. It's, we just go in and we go right to where the shooter is. Once that's happening, we'll bring people in to go where the wounded people are and get them up. So it's training that continues all the time, and we, again, without the support of the community, though, we wouldn't be able to do it, so appreciate it.
Nice job. Chief Wazinski, any comments? I see you back there.
Yep, in regards to the burn, it was overall a great day. I thank the Cataldos for the opportunity of having that house. These are far and few in between, and to actually have an entire day where we can do multiple evolutions, it's an invaluable thing that, our new members, like you said, it's been several years since we've had a house fire.
That's a good thing.
Of a significant magnitude in this town. And to have a burn like this, it gives us the opportunity to send all these new guys into multiple evolutions. And, when you don't have to worry about damage, you can make some fires a little more significant than others. And it gives them the chance to see some of these different things and how the fire acts and how they can try some different techniques in extinguishment. So it was a great day.
Thank you. One other comment that I have, the candidates' night is next Wednesday, the 20th. Unfortunately, I won't be there. I'll be away on work, so I'll talk to you afterwards.
But thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah,
Let me
go
just
ahead,
thank-
absolutely.
It is sponsored by the Rotary Club. It'll be right here in room 103, 7 p.m. Format, if you've seen it the last 5-6 years, it's going to be the same format. Candidates have an opportunity to express themselves, and then questions back and forth, moderated by our town moderator, Tim Goddard. And as I said, Rotary sponsoring it, and that'll be in this room, room 103, Wednesday, 20 April, 7 to 9:30 p.m. Thanks.
All right, and just one other comment, because I'm going to be away. Patriots Day, it's customary for a member to go and speak at the services at Liberty Square. And I believe, Mr. Avelli, you're going to be attending along with Mr. Knox. So, again, next week, if anybody is interested for those services.
Jump in.
Sure, go ahead.
I hate to jump on the back of all the great things that the police and fire have done, our public safety has done, but I did want to just give a shout out to a number of our teachers got involved with the high school production this weekend, and Legally Blonde was presented this weekend at the high school. Fantastic production, and I'm going to probably miss somebody. Mr. Tombino, Mike Crory from the police department, Mike Lynn, Scooch, what's Scooch's real name? Dave Pascucci.
Scooch is his real name.
Yeah, Scooch is his real name, but some people call him
The
Dave
government
Pascucci.
recognizes him as Dave Pascucci.
Keith Camoli, assistant principal, and Greg Gillette. Greg Gillette, they participated in the production. It was really a well-done production, and it was nice to see the interaction with the faculty integrated into the show. It was really a fun night out.
Nice.
And as always, they did a fantastic job.
Outstanding.
It's a beautiful facility.
Yeah. All right, moving on, we have town appointments. Tonight, we are Neshoba Valley Technical High School District alternate. We have Insurance Advisory Committee, retiree member, Zoning Board of Appeals alternate member, Economic Development Committee, Alumni Field Renovation Design Advisory Committee, and Master Plan Update Steering Committee, along with the Sustainability Committee. So, that being said, we're gonna jump to Neshoba Tech. Do we have the moderator here?
Oh.
I don't see the moderator here. So we'll move on, we'll skip over the Neshoba alternate.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask, if he
Yes.
does walk in, can we circle right back? to
Absolutely, yes.
No, you have to wait.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just
That
adolescent.
should, you'll be out of here by 10 o'clock. I
Yeah,
swear.
thank you. So appreciate the consideration.
Yeah. All right, so our next position would be Insurance Advisory Committee. One member who must be a town retiree for an indefinite term. And we have Mr. Ken Spalding, Bruce Pierce, Anita Harding, Donald Armstrong, and Alex McCurdy. Any of those folks here? I don't see any. We do have
The
a
recommendation
recommendation from
the IAC.
the IAC. Which reads, actually, did I see Ann in here somewhere too? Oh, there's Ann. Come on up, Ann. Say hello. Come on up here, Ann. Come on. So, the insurance, I'll read this. This is a letter received March 31st from the Insurance Advisory Committee from Ann Esman, the Assistant Treasurer and HR Administrator. Insurance Advisory Committee would like to thank the Board of Selectmen for the opportunity to review the applicants for retiree seat on the IAC. They are very pleased that 5 individuals willing to tackle the difficult task of recommending solutions to every increasing health care cost. The committee met on March 31st and reviewed the applicants. There was a strong group of individuals, and after healthy discussion, Mr. Ken Spalding was unanimously voted as a recommendation to replace Mr. Peter Tanny as a retiree representative. Mr. Spalding is known to the members of the IAC for his excellent communication skills, his pleasant demeanor, and his commitment to propose purpose, and therefore the current IAC members feel he will be an asset to the team. He is also a member of the retiree insurance plan, which is 75% of the retirees are enrolled. Any comments, members?
Comment.
Sure.
So, Mr. Spalding, others may have as well. I had him for English. I'd like to think that I am, I'd like to actually owe a lot of what I think I've achieved in that area to him. It helped me with my success business-wise, educationally. I'm a big Mr. Spalding fan. And then he went and sealed the deal with this comment in his application. I taught with Peter Tierney for many years. He was a good friend, and if in some small way by serving on this committee I can pay tribute to his memory, that would be great. So, sold from my perspective.
Any other comments, members? Look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 32B, subsection 3, to appoint Ken Spalding to an indefinite term as a retiree member of the Insurance Advisory Committee.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is the Economic Development Committee. We have 4 vacancies and 1 applicant, Caroline Armstrong. Is Caroline here? Nope.
And the EDC did recommend her appointment.
Okay, I'd look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Caroline Armstrong.
Remember the EDC?
Oh, go ahead, Ms.
Yeah, I think I'm the only EDC member here. We do have a recommendation on there with Caroline, Chairman Neil O'Leary. Met with her, he's enthusiastic about her, and relevant to the 4 vacancies is a request you also have from us to reduce the number of committee members down from 9 to 7. It's been very tough to make quorum. I think you've had that same action with some other committees. I don't know when you
can do that.
appropriately deal with that.
We can do that now.
Yeah.
Okay. So modify that, well, let's make the appointment and then you can make
Appoint
another
first and then
motion.
another motion to reduce the size of the committee.
Okay. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Caroline Armstrong to an indefinite term on the Economic Development Committee.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So from 9
You
to
want
7?
to go
to
to
7.
amend the, from 9 to 7 members?
Yes.
And then the membership of the Economic Development Committee.
It's 10
Okay.
now, isn't it?
Are we ready for that one?
Keith, isn't it 10 right now?
There's 10 right now, you want it 7?
10 down
I
to
think
7.
7 was our recommendation. We sent it in
Okay,
a
to
letter
reduce
form, I
it to,
think, in
let's say
January.
reduce it to 7. Yeah.
Reduce it to 7? Okay. Move the Board of Selectmen vote to reduce the membership on the Economic Development Committee to 7 members.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No vacancies, well done.
Sustainability Committee, we have one vacancy.
We actually have 2.
We have
Late
2.
breaking news
Oh.
that we had a resignation, so we have 2 applicants and 2 vacancies.
Perfect.
Which we like to achieve a certain symmetry and equilibrium.
Appropriate for sustainability.
All right, so who's off, do we know?
It's a sustainable committee.
Yes, sustainable. Who's the second?
Second.
Who's the second applicant?
No, the
second
resign.
It was,
You know.
no, who's the second vacancy?
Resignation.
The email we got today.
I'm gonna check.
Oh, it's Joshua Cook and then Medina, I can't pronounce her name, Medina?
Oh, Oliver.
Aaron.
Oliver.
Aaron
Neely.
knows, Aaron knows.
Renato, and I'm sorry, I don't know his last name.
Not to go me.
No,
No,
those are
we're
the-
talking about
no, the
resignation.
question was
Resignation.
who's vacant, no, who's,
Mediva Oliver.
Madavi.
Madavi.
Madavi Oliver.
Madavi Oliver. Okay, so there's our 2
Those
vacancies.
grist mill people, you know?
All right, so, Rientos?
Renato.
Renato. Come on up, and I see Janet's here. Hello. There it
it's
is.
the new heating system.
It's not very sustainable.
Well, it's just on the body heat of the people in the room.
All right, so, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be on the Sustainable Committee?
So, again, I'll tell the joke that I always tell. I have an Italian name, Japanese last name. I was born in Brazil. I'm here in the US since 2009. Now I'm citizen of the US. And I worked in a green advisory committee in Acton. So it's similar as our sustainability committee. So moving from Acton to Littleton, actually I'm here for 10 months now. I realized that I'm here for the long run. So I am part of the MPUSC already, and as I worked in a green advisory board in Acton, I would like to continue my work here in Littleton.
Outstanding, thank you. Members, questions?
Just thank you.
No questions, we work hard together.
Both Melissa and I have come to know Renato quite well over this past year, as he said, with the Master Plan Update Steering Committee. I mean, he dove into the deep end right from the get-go. So thank you very much, and thank you for wanting to this committee also. Thumbs up.
Chuck?
I think you came before us
Yeah.
for just that appointment, so I'm good, thank you.
Very good.
Thank you again for stepping forward.
All right, Janet?
So, it's good and bad. I have a much less colorful background, and I was born, raised, lived in Milton. I'm still in Milton. Only that. But I actually, in my professional career, have a lot of experience with sustainability and green initiatives. I actually worked at a company that we went all through like lean training and certification. So through that, actually became a member of the U.S. Green Build Council and got a certification as a green associate. So it's just something that I'm really interested in, and I personally try to live a lean, recycling, sustainable, shut the lights off, use LED, so it's just something I've always been really interested in. And as far as like a community, I know that we've made some things, but made some steps towards it, but I'll see or hear or think of things that we could add, and I feel like, in terms of like ideas, but also, with my marketing background too, I feel like we could maybe get more outreach, so we could like just put more information out there and maybe get more input and more participation.
Great.
My hope.
Fantastic. Members, Mr. Knox?
Thank you very much.
Be lucky with the energy and skills she brings forward.
Mr. Hill?
I love the fact that you brought up the marketing piece and, just the public relations of getting out there and spreading the word and trying to get other people involved. It's awesome, and I thank you for stepping forward.
Yeah, and for the both of you, you know, volunteers are hard to come by sometimes, and we have these committees, we want to keep them active, we want them to get some new ideas, new good stuff for the town to be presented, so I appreciate you guys stepping forward. All right, I look for a motion.
Well said, glad we don't have to make any decisions. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Renato Nakagomi and Janet Fields to an indefinite term on the Sustainability Committee.
Moving and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Alumni Field Renovation Design Advisory Committee. Just as an update, Mr. DeCoste is the Board of Selectmen. Mr. Pirelli is back there, there's Tom, he's from the Finance Committee. Tonight we have...
From the Winchester, Pirellis.
What did I say?
Pirelli.
Perel, sorry.
It's his eyes. It's his eyes.
It's a shampoo.
I need glasses. Oh, yeah, it is Tom Perel. So we have 4 vacancies for citizens at large. We have Julie Rupp, Michael Prolix. Prue, okay. Nicholas Kiernan, Randy Brown.
Nicholas removed his name from the running.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Sorry.
And Sheila Kish.
Melissa Watson.
Melissa Watson. All right, I saw Julie here. Why don't you come on up, Julie, and tell us a little bit about you and why you want to be involved in the renovation committee.
Other than spending time with.
Really? And think about that.
Reconsideration.
Well, I grew up in New England and Connecticut. I've lived in a few different states and have been in Littleton for about 5 years. I don't think it's a big secret that I'm pretty interested in our athletic fields. So in addition to the about 2 years of research I've done on several different types of athletic field surfaces, I also have about 10 years of environmental consulting. And so some of what I do on a day-to-day basis are due diligence from an environmental standpoint. Bid and design work with our engineers to get construction projects. I mostly work with contaminated sites or environmental compliance sites that are responding to NODs. And so I have a pretty technical background as far as dealing with engineering and bidding processes as well as environmental. And then just also, you know, not being an engineer, I'm often the facilitator with the big picture. So that's one of the things I'm responsible for from a project standpoint, is kind of the big picture. How do we, you know, what's our end standpoint and what do we want to accomplish? You know, and I was a varsity athlete, and so I also am, you know, I see the importance in our infrastructure and, you know, just having good facilities for our kids and trying to figure out what, you know, what the long-term plan is. And so, you know, I absolutely see the need for, you know, the alumni redesign. I'm obviously, at first was most interested in the fields itself, but it is very, very obvious that alumni needs to be renovated. So.
Okay, thank you. Board members, questions? Joe?
I had the pleasure of talking with Julie on the phone I was leaving a home inspection in Groton. She said, I want to take 2 minutes of your time, and I was back in Littleton by the time the conversation was done. But it was, I appreciated everything in your demeanor and how you brought your points over to me in a very clear, very calm way. And it's obviously you've spent a lot of time, a lot of research on this area. So thank you for putting the application in.
Melissa?
No, I'd agree, and you know, Julie's been very consistent on her engagement on this one, and that's what we really need for a committee like this, is, you know, someone that's really going to be there and willing to roll up their sleeves and do the work, so. Yeah.
PJ?
No, nothing. Joe?
I've had a couple of those drives home as well, only I was coming from Norwood. Julie and I have had some long conversations and excellent conversations, and I actually spoke with her today, and I told her every time I speak with her, I come out of the conversation a little more knowledgeable and a little bit smarter for it. I do appreciate you stepping forward, and I think you'd be a great fit on this committee. Thank you for coming forward.
I don't have any questions for you. I know we've interacted here. I haven't got the phone call yet, okay?
I can't track you down, I can't find you.
He's in the witness protection program. Mr. Pirelli's his protection.
He's a big dude. Michael? Why don't you come on up and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so,
and why you wanna be involved.
Moved here 9 years ago with my wife. She's a longtime Littleton resident. And I have I have 4 younger brother-in-laws. One is not so young, but I've watched since I've gotten into town. I've watched them play football at the field, and I've been there as many Fridays as I could be. And, you see the infrastructure. This past couple seasons, my kids have been old enough to run under the bleachers, so I've gone under there chasing them at times. And you look up and it's a little scary. So, when I saw that this was going to be brought up, I was definitely for it. I know there's a lot of issues around town as far as this particular issue goes, or a lot of questions. One of the things that I think is of the utmost importance is to communicate out some of these issues. I think that was a major issue the last time around. Personally, I would have been for it last year, and, if I could have made the meeting, I would have voted for it. I didn't find out about it until 2 weeks before. That's not necessarily, anyone's fault, but I just, I felt like the communication was lacking last time around. I've been trying to use my network in town to just make people aware that this meeting is coming up. Just trying to, create a, dialogue amongst the people that I know and people I've met through, since I've started talking about this issue, and just trying to communicate. And whichever side you fall on, I think it's just important to talk out the issues. And I think it's going to be important moving forward if we get it passed in this the special town meeting. The committee, whatever we discuss, certainly I think it's important to keep the town abreast rather than slam them with a ton of information a week before the meeting, before the vote in the fall, to get it through. So I think it's really important.
Fantastic. Mr. Knox?
Well-written letter. Where do you coach hockey?
I coached right now I coach AB Youth. I did coach with Howie on the Littleton High School team for 4 years. Took it over for 1 year, and then I realized my marriage was more important than varsity hockey, so I had to give it back to him. Not that my wife asked me to.
Right.
Didn't?
This sounds kind of familiar. No other questions, thanks.
Yeah.
Melissa?
I don't really have any questions either. I thought it was a good letter, like you said.
PJ? Chuck?
Like Julie, Mike's reached out to me a number of times and has, I don't feel as though I walk away any smarter when he talks to me, but, no, he's offered a lot of input and asked a lot of questions. And, he was probably thinking about doing this beforehand, but I actually said to him, Mike, you're offering a lot of good points and counterpoints. This might be something you might want to consider if your wife allows you.
Clear it with him.
But thank you, as with the others, thank you for stepping forward.
Thanks.
All right. Randy? Come on up, Randy. How are you tonight? Good, how are you, sir? All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be involved in the renovation committee.
I've lived in town for since 2006. I had a business in town for about 8 years, until a couple years ago. So I've watched things change over the last few years, and this issue, I feel I would contribute as far as being a more conservative voice on costs and how we go about solving the problem. If everything's decided, I'm not sure if I'm the right fit for the committee, first of all. So if it's to be on the committee, you're all gung-ho for everything, then that's probably not why I should be.
So the committee will be charged to take a look at the renovation of the entire alumni field complex, and make recommendations to this board, and then ultimately the town in regards to the renovation. So, I think Michael said it, if the special town meeting votes to say we're good with Article 3, 4, Article 4 in the special town meeting to move forward on the design and bid documents, we're on.
Okay.
If they don't, if the town says no, there's no need for a committee.
It'll dissolve.
Is it the design that was presented with the turf field and everything, or is that what's being approved, or the solution isn't determined until the study's done?
It's, at this point, it's wide open. We're looking for this committee to come back and say, we've met, Michael put it very well, you know, we want to communicate out to the town, we want to make sure that everybody's aware of what we're talking about, and here are some renovations that were, the conceptual plans were done as a gift to the town.
Okay.
So we have conceptual plans based on what that individual heard from
Okay.
a segment of the population. So now you're gonna take that conceptual plan and say, okay, what does the town really want?
Okay.
So-
So I run a small business and very cost efficient at times. I do a lot of budgeting work, so if I can be of assistance as far as trying to control
Sure.
costs and keep things to a minimum as far as the taxpayers, residents of the community, then I feel like I might be able to help out.
Okay. Joe, questions?
I don't think any questions right now, because I think it might be bring a balance and conservative ideas into the committee, so.
Melissa? Okay.
We have 4 vacancies and 5 candidates, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
If you were not picked as one of the candidates, would you still consider at least offering some expertise as you described to the committee?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Chuck?
The only question I have is, I want to make sure you understand the charge. 'Cause
Yeah,
you started out by
absolutely.
saying, if this is what you're looking for, I'm not your guy. What do you perceive this renovation design advisory committee as Mr. Carr kind of summarized the charge? What do you perceive it as being?
Making a decision on what the best solution is for the town, whether it be fixing the fields we have, making a new field, what types of materials are used, how to go about spending money, how much to spend, things like that. That's what I thought the community might be about, but I just want to make sure it wasn't, you fully agree with.
The conceptual plan?
Right,
Yeah.
the conceptual plan and what you've seen in some of the newspaper articles and stuff.
Okay.
So basically, if a yes person is like yes, 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 that's not me.
Got it.
Actually, I like to say no a lot. so.
I don't think any of us are signing up to just say
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, we're looking for a group to take a look at a conceptual plan.
Yep.
And again, report back to the Board of Selectmen and ultimately report back to the town to say, this is good, this is what we think, this is what the townspeople have told us, and as a committee, we all agree to
Okay.
this plan. That's
Sounds good.
essentially what we're doing. Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know if there's a possible miscommunication. What was presented to the town, gifted, was, I think as the chairman said, a very concerned and considerate citizen, resident of the town, along with some input from others, as one possible alternative.
Right.
We are very much interested in the redesign, the renovation, whatever you may want to call it, the alumni field complex, as the chairman has stated. So that, I think, is what the charge is, not whether or not, here's a design, that's your point of departure.
Okay.
That was one presentation. The committee, at least I would hope that the committee would view this as, how do we make alumni field complex, if you will, the best possible thing it can be at a cost the town can afford, and it best serves our students, the community at large. So that's how I would view it.
Good summary. Good summary. Thank you for stepping forward.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sheila? Sheila is here. Hello.
How is everybody?
Very good. Tell us a little about as to who you are and why you would like to be involved in the renovation committee.
Well, I'd like to be involved on the step, but I don't like why I like to be involved. I'd like to be involved because I really feel that this definitely needs to be done, which we've all agreed on, but to look at, to be a member that could look at the plan and say, well, let's look at all the options. I'm pretty flexible in how I work with people, and I feel that there can't be all the yes people or all the no people, and there has to be somebody who's going to look at both sides and be very objective. And that's how I feel I am. I'm a pretty objective person. I listen to both sides, and then what are the options, and what is the best input of the people around. I am a former high school coach. I'm a middle school coach. I'm a youth coach. My kids have played on the fields. I've played on those fields. Yes, in the perspective of the athletes, what is best for them as well. So not just for the townspeople as well, but for the kids who will be coming through and playing on those fields and what they'll get out of it. The other perspective I look at is I'm also a member of the Littleton Athletic Booster Association, and that perspective as well. What are the volunteers going to be able to do when they're on that field? And how do the other teams perceive us as they walk onto that field? So there's a lot of perspectives to bring in to see what is the best plan for the athletic field.
Fantastic. Mr. Knox?
So I don't think I really have a question other than I thank you for putting the application in and knowing how well-rounded you are and having the ability to not only coach but have played on the different fields in town. You have a real feel of what is good for a student athlete and some of the problems that we're having right now. So no questions right now, just very comfortable with the application.
Melissa?
Yeah, I think you bring a great perspective, but I am curious, what application on file no is that?
Oh, you know what, I'm sorry, I moved the boxes around, so.
Oh, okay.
Yes, her application kind of came in, just.
Got it. I'm good.
PJ?
Thanks, Shane.
Chuck?
No, I'd like to echo what Joe said with your perspective and having had children that are athletes, played on the field yourself just a few years ago.
Yeah, just a few.
But I think you do, you have a much different perspective than the other candidates, and I think that would bode well, and as I've said with the others, thank you very much for stepping forward.
Hold on, I get to talk. Jeez. One comment that you said really intrigued me, and that was the folks in town that come to volunteer for all the different sporting events, you know, what they have to put up with in there. And this is a renovation of the entire complex, and, you know, that can't be lost. Because the money that you know, those volunteers in the snack shack, selling all the stuff for the boosters, for their individual teams, that's huge.
It is.
You know, it's
It is.
huge. And, you know, that's the sport, the side of the sport that a lot of folks don't see. And for kids to go home with a new shirt, some nice athletic wear, you know, it makes them feel real good. I've seen it firsthand, so
And
that's
for
a
the
great point.
boosters, that's, when the snack shack is open and all of that, that's a fundraising for all of the athletes. So it seems like it's just football because it's Friday night, but that's just our best venue to be able to do that. And all of the funding from that goes to all of the athletes, so,
And all the different teams.
all the different teams.
Yeah, yeah, so that's a great point to brought out, so I appreciate you saying that, so thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa? Melissa's not here. She's working. All right, deliberations, folks, we have four slots, 5 applicants. We'll open it up to the members. Advocate 4 individuals.
I think all the candidates put forth a good reason for us to advocate for them. I do appreciate everyone's input. I feel somewhat badly about Melissa not being able to attend. There was something that there was somehow she was kind of lost in the shuffle, and feel a little badly that she wasn't able to attend tonight.
Was she aware of it?
But not until this
She may
afternoon.
not have been aware of tonight.
All right. Well, I know we want to all make a decision tonight, but in the past, when we've had an individual late, like not being notified, we have postponed it. It's up to the board. You know, if we can make the appointments at our next meeting. We've interviewed the folks now, we know who's there, so it won't be a huge process. But if you want to hear that last applicant, I'm at the pleasure of the board.
Yeah, because from my personal perspective, we've heard from some really great candidates, so without knowing Melissa or having nothing, I could, say go with the 4 we know. So I'm open as well, but we want to wait.
What is the next meeting?
What's that?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Waiting 2 weeks is not gonna have any effect on anything.
Absolutely
it's
not.
not-
We
yeah,
don't have town meeting until May 6th.
Right.
So, second.
Yeah, I have a question.
The football tournament's the 6th.
What was the suspense we had for applicants?
What was?
The suspense for the application? Closeout date?
It was, well, it was unusually short. We, in order to make it for tonight, we only had it open for 2 weeks. And we usually have it open for a month. So we had a special early closing so that the board could vote on it tonight.
Yeah.
And remember, the committee is made up of 9 members because you said so. It's not a town meeting vote or anything. But
Yeah, understood.
Yeah, so it's.
So, board members, you want to open the application back up? Or do you want to just interview Melissa in 2 weeks?
I think we've got great candidates before us. I would like to hear what Melissa has to say, personally. Unless we want to round it out and make it a 10-member board and run it to even numbers, not always the best. Getting a quorum and that kind of thing.
You're our representative, Mr. DeCoste, so.
But you need 5 out of 9, you need 6 out of 10.
Right.
So I'd say stick with the 9.
Yeah.
And based
We
on
did
Keith's
tonight.
input, to postpone to the next meeting to vote, and we give Melissa an opportunity.
Any issues?
Nope, I agree.
All right. That's, we appreciate you all coming in. We appreciate your willingness to volunteer. But we're going to hear from our last applicant. It's a very important committee, so we want to make sure everybody gets heard. So the 25th, come on back, we'll do the appointments. We won't interview again, but we're good to go. Thank you very much. I see Mr. Moderator back there. Come on up, Mr. Moderator. I told you I'd get you out of here before 10. Told you I'd get you out of here before 10.
We award the EDC.
Yes.
The school committee, I apologize for my tardiness.
No problem. We have no problem, we're here
School
anyways.
committee was more upset than.
Yeah, we're good, we're good.
I saw my
That
little
makes
problem,
sense.
I'm good. Thank you.
All right, so tonight we have the alternate district representative for the Neshoba Valley Technical High School. The appointment is made by town moderator, Board of Selectmen, and school committee. Carl? I don't see Carl here.
He couldn't wait.
Is he up on conservation meeting tonight?
That's okay, that's all right. I mean, we have,
He's been before us in the past.
He's a candidate for reappointment?
Yeah,
yeah, he's a candidate for reappointment, and he's the only applicant, so. Board members, questions?
No.
School committee, Mr. Moderator,
No question.
I'd look for a motion.
Move that the town moderator, school committee, and board of selectmen vote to appoint Carl Melberg as Neshoba Valley Technical High School District alternate for a term expiring March 30th, 2019.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Hold on,
sir.
Tim.
All right, moving on. May 2nd, 2016 Annual and Special Town Meeting, recommendations and assignments. Oh, wait a second, we didn't do the master plan. What do we have?
No applications.
No
No applications for zoning board of appeals or master plan.
All right, I thought I skipped something. All right, I'm good. Town meetings. Town meeting. Adopt articles and make recommendations, and assignment of articles. So we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 recommendations.
Those are the only remaining articles you haven't adopted.
And then we have to do the assignment. So, We'll let, Bonnie, you want to walk us through these?
Well, since Joe's out of the room, I would just do assignments real quick.
Let's just walk us through the first couple here, Bonnie?
Sure, are you just looking to address the ones that don't have the recommendations? The line
That's
item
all,
transfers?
just the line item transfers.
Okay, so there are a few line item transfers, very few. The first one is for public building expense, an increase of $12,500, and it's for engineering support for the PMBC in order to be able to prepare for their upcoming building projects and repairs. It'll help them draft bid specs with some outside consultant support. This is factored into the operating budget for the next fiscal year, so this should not be a recurring item going forward. General insurance is in need of a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $20,000. And it's because of claims experience this year is unusually high. It's actually very high. That's to be offset by, actually, there's a typo here, and I apologize. The amount in employee retiree benefits should be reduced by the $32,500. The reason that we can do the reduction is we prepaid our retirement assessment at the beginning of the year, and it saved approximately $36,000 because they give us a credit if we pay it in July rather than in quarterly installments over the year. So it will be budget neutral in that aspect. So there'll be no increase to the operating budget, it's just a net to zero.
And then special town meeting Article 4 is alumni field renovation design.
Part of it.
Town officers, annual town meeting. Keith, you want to just walk us through?
Yeah, the town moderator, rather, the town clerk has provided us with the list of proposed designees for
Fence viewer and
fence viewer,
such.
fence viewer Joe Knox.
Jim, you're the
Host
tree
of
warden,
others.
right? The tree warden?
Doesn't require election though.
Sure. Then the Chapter 90 money.
Tree warden for life.
Yeah, he is a tree warden for life. Chapter 90 money, the $395,107 that was discussed in the mail package
Right.
tonight. And then we have a voter participation article, 18, the moratorium on installation of synthetic turf with crumb rubber or lead component on town-owned land. So, members, any questions about these articles? And all we're doing tonight is voting to either support or take no action. Or not support. Questions?
Yeah.
All right,
So,
go ahead.
Comments or questions?
Comments, yeah.
Yeah, I'm inclined to support all, and then leave 18, and have it stand on the merits at town meeting floor.
Okay. Mr. DeCoste?
So the only, at our last meeting, we discussed the possibility of including some language in our article, special town meeting 4, to kind of roll up Article 18 of town meeting, of annual town meeting. Julie Rupp's here. We've had some conversations about that, and she wants to make sure that the language to include town-owned land is included in that article, and I didn't want to speak for the board in that.
As far as?
If we were to include language in the article for alumni field renovation design,
Yes.
she had reservations about including the language if it didn't include town-owned land, not just alumni renovation. So I didn't want to speak for us as a whole. And
So.
we had talked about,
Putting it in the motion?
we had talked about amending our motion to include moratorium on the installation of synthetic turf with tire crumb or lead components. So they would all be part of one article, one deliberation.
Or we can have both of them done, ask the moderator to move them back to back as we come out of special town. That way there we can get them both done. That way their folks aren't hanging around, you know?
Well,
My-
and one passes
Go ahead.
and one doesn't, it doesn't, I have concerns about, like if the alumni field design doesn't pass and then automatically this is attached to, like, I feel like they're related, but they're separate, I guess
Sure.
is the best way to say it.
Yeah, sure.
And I would
Sure.
prefer to keep the moratorium portion.
Separate.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
That's
my,
your-
that's my.
No, not a problem.
On,
Go ahead.
on the point of the order in which the moderator might allow the articles to be taken up, that, and I'm glad Tim's here, we had floated a couple of ideas of what the procedure might be.
Mm-hmm.
And I had identified two options. Tim had indicated option one might be the better way to proceed, and specifically, the task is, how can we take up in sequence, one after another, those two articles, which are similar but different. And one way to do it, and Tim's preferred way would be, first, that we would, the first half hour of town meeting, between 7 and 7:30, we're in the annual town meeting. Typically, we do the budget. Some years, we can get the whole budget done in half an hour. But then at 7:30, we go into the special town meeting, deal with the articles in the special, and then dissolve that and go back to annual. So the suggestion is to go to the special town meeting, as usual, at 7:30, take up the alumni field design article as the last item in the special town meeting. It's number 4, but essentially take it up after Article 7, so it's at the very end. So we'll still get to it approximately the same time. We might get there by 8 o'clock or 8:15. Upon the completion of the vote on that article, since it would be the last in the special, then we dissolve the special, we're all done, we go back to the annual, and then to have a motion to take Article 18 out of order, so that we would do alumni field followed by the moratorium article, one after the other. And we wouldn't,
Sure.
it's the least amount of,
Mr. Moderator, and you're okay with that order, and it's your meeting, my friend?
Yes, the town administrator did send me both options. I think option one is cleaner.
Okay.
It keeps things closer to the established order of things. In option two, to me, there's no guarantee that we can take up Article 18.
Right.
Enough time to
Gotcha.
get the business of the special done.
Yep.
It's the will of the town meeting, essentially, but I think option one is the cleaner way to go.
Outstanding. Board members, questions?
Nope.
I agree with the,
I appreciate the
the
input.
moderator also.
okay. So what we would plan to do, there's a portion in the town meeting booklet where the moderator talks about the consent calendar, and I've drafted an addendum to that, which would just describe this procedure.
Sure.
So that the voter information that folks get, they will see, the plan is to take these two articles up one after the other, and procedurally, this is how we do it.
Outstanding. Thank you. All right, so, is that all you had, Chuck, on this?
Yes,
All right. Any other comments, Mr. Knox?
Nope.
I would lean towards, actually, I'm with Mr. Avello on this too. I'd support the top 4 and let 18.
If I could just add.
Sure.
The only reason I have any reticence on it, because, Julie, I'm not wanting to mess with your article at all, is just, we've not had an analysis, second, third order effects as to town-owned land and synthetic turf. It's a broad category, town-owned land is a broad category, and do we risk something that we hadn't intended? I just don't know the answer, I'm completely ignorant on it. And that's the only reason I'm offering as a selectman not to take a position on it at this time, and offer that opportunity for a full and open discussion on town meeting floor, and perhaps any other information we can gather between now and then to help support one way or the other. And that's the only reason for my reticence at this point.
That's not uncommon, too, the board not to support.
Sure.
No, so put in, so.
Any other comment? I'd look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to support the following articles in the May 2nd, 2016 annual and special town meeting warrants, and direct the preparation of motions to be moved and seconded by said board for those supported. Special Town Meeting 2, FY 2016 line item transfer, Special Town Meeting 4D, FY 2016 capital plan alumni field renovation design, Annual Town Meeting 1, town officers, Annual Town Meeting 14, use of Mass DOT Chapter 90 funds, $395,107.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Do you need to take a motion, make a motion that you're taking no position, so that that's recorded as well?
No.
So,
No, thank you. All right, so, article assignments, fun time of the meeting. Mr. Knox, you sure you don't have to step out of the meeting again? All right. I'll go for the heavy hitters, special town meeting 1, 2, 3. And I'll take 4, actually.
Roll, keep going.
Isn't Chuck gonna take,
Well, you can have, maybe you want D. I'll take
A through C.
A through C. Chuck, you can have D.
It's lucky.
it's what you signed up for, right?
I'll take the next two.
All right, look at this,
CPA,
we're
Milpon.
coming right along here.
Who's got, so,
I'll take
Melissa has
5 and
5, okay.
I'll do 7.
Melissa and PJ. All right, town offices.
Still got it off without any articles. and-
Well, now, here we go, this is the heavy,
Make
these
up
are the heavy ones,
time.
here we go.
Yeah, I'll take 1 and 3.
3.
I'm happy to do 4.
The 4.
I'll take town officers, 1.
Joe just took it, didn't he?
Oh, you did.
One,
Joe
two,
just
three.
fight for it.
Oh, was that, sorry, I'm, I can't with you.
Yeah.
So did we skip over 2? Joe, did you do 1 through 3, Joe?
Yeah.
So where are we? Someone take 4, or no?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, 4 is, oh, got it.
5 is water department, anyway.
I'll do 5 and 6 if you want.
5 and 6 is Chuck.
7, I'll take A through E.
7, A through E, oh boy.
A through
Roman numeral 1 through D, A through D, so delta.
Oh, yeah. So you're going down a, what, fire station expansion?
All the way down to highway department.
Okay.
Down to the fork truck?
Police and fire.
Yep.
I'll do highway. So that's 3A through E.
Yep.
So that Joe took, you're not doing highway, Joe?
I took all the way down to the highway floor, but
Yeah, so,
Oh, you're doing, oh, I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Right, I'll take schools. Roman numeral 4, A through H.
All right, so I'll do cemetery backhoe.
Jimmy, you got the DACO, is that what you said?
Yep. I'll do library too.
I'll take Park and Rec in this, where should I stop?
Park and Rec, that's not a problem.
Do you want to do facility
I'll do the
needs?
facility needs, yes.
Okay, there you go.
stormwater, any takers?
I'll do that.
Tim, you want to take,
Castle?
Yeah, I'll take the castle and the trees.
CPA, didn't I take something related to that already? I'll stick with CPA, I'll take CPA.
You got CPA and listen?
Yep.
I'll take the next one, personnel.
Sure.
Where the hell are we here? Okay.
stabilizations,
Stabilization.
reloads.
Capital. I'll take them.
This is stable.
I'll do 13, 14.
13, 14, senior veterans.
16 I'll do also.
I'll do 16, 17.
16,
Joe, 16.
Julie, you want to take 18?
Skip 17, just take 17 too.
So Joe is, I'll do the swimming pool since I have one. What the heck? It's a big one.
Who's doing the stormwater, Paul? Did you take stormwater or Melissa Connection? I'll do it.
The stormwater,
You go backwards?
Well, no.
No, we have the two
bylaw amendment.
stormwater bylaws.
Those are bylaws.
Oh.
I'll do those.
No, sorry.
Okay.
But did we get 16 now?
Yes.
Package store too.
16 was done by Joe.
Package stores.
I got 20, 21, 22.
21, 21.
20, 21, 22.
Okay.
And I'm out.
The last 3 year consent
I'm ending with the liquor
calendar.
stores. I'll take them.
Joe's all over
Okay,
it.
all right.
Look at that. This was
Record time.
record time. Really good.
I thought the chairman was gonna choose them all for us.
Sign them.
A long day, that's how it was done. Still a democracy.
Really?
That's like being sealed, so? No. We'll come back to the dedication of, we just got the list for the dedication, you know.
Town report. Peter.
Oh, that's it?
That's it.
Okay.
What?
Yeah,
Okay.
for the dedication of the annual town report, that there were actually 2 individuals who had passed away in 2015, but early enough in the year that we dedicated last year's report to them.
Okay.
Mary Kay and Don
Yeah, Smith?
Smith. So this year, it would be dedicated just to Pete Tierney.
Okay, so look for a motion on that one?
Make it up.
Move to include P. Tierney in this year's dedication annual, or the town meeting.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor? Aye. All right, number 7, Cooper Farm, 180 Great Road. So the board has been negotiating with M&M, and we have a HCA that was before us. We're looking to move forward and have a public meeting next time we meet. If you guys want to come up, sorry, in the back.
For those who don't know, an HCA is a host community agreement.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. We're violating our rule.
My name is acronym.
Excuse me, sir. Right.
Members of the board,
Hello, hello.
Administrator. Good to see you again. We were here about 7 weeks ago, and we brought a plan, and we've,
So, all right, we're gonna,
Of course.
the board wants to make some comments. After that, we'll turn it over to you. guys.
Absolutely.
How's
I'm
that
sorry
sound?
if I had
That's
jumped in.
okay. Members? Joe? No? Mr. Ravello?
All right, as the chairman noted, small negotiating committee comprised of chairman, town administrator, legal counsel, myself, have been meeting with M&M over the last few weeks to try and neck this down through something that's agreeable to certainly the purchaser themselves, the seller, and what's in the best interest of the town. And I would like to say that certainly from my perspective, the members of the negotiating team have the best interest in the town at the forefront each and every session. My State Department friends like to use the phrase frank and substantive discussions. It's somewhat of a euphemism from time to time, and I would offer that even in this case, it was a euphemism from time to time. But we did indeed have frank and substantive discussions with M&M. The HCA that was last drafted with our town council and presented to M&M provided a path forward, I believe, that is useful for certainly the purchaser, the seller, and most importantly for the town of Littleton. Neither one of the parties are going to get each and everything the other seeks. So we're seeking what is the best possible deal given the circumstance that exist. Not as we may wish them to be, not as we hope they would be, not as we want them to be, but as they are. And everything's with a purpose is how I approach things. So the purpose is, what is the best thing we can do for the town of Littleton? So I say the HCA, the host community agreement, that had been presented to M&M, included some points that still need some refinement. The 2 main points that remain were 12 units that are on Goldsmith Street. Now you may ask, how do 12 units on Goldsmith Street equate to this map? During the discussions, M&M offered that the 12 units, which will be rental, 25% he'd be offering up as affordable. And because they're rentable, under the state law, all 12 would count as affordable. Of the 24 over 55, again, 25% are offered. So that 6 and 12 becomes 18 out of the total number of units that would exist in this HCA. And I would ask that we include those 12 units that are on Goldsmith Street to be part of this HCA. Going forward with that, one of the other things that have been brought up was connection fees, because roughly it's about $5,800 per unit to be connecting. The discussions we had that evening centered around the 12 units on Goldsmith Street. Round numbers, notionally speaking, about $70,000. Now, it should be noted that some many months back, M&M did come forward to the town and proposed turning those 12 units on Goldsmith Street into affordable. There was a request for compensation on that of $200,000 at that time. This board chose not to act on that. Subsequent to that, as by tying it in, the 4, that would be the 25%, and equating to 4 of those 12, 3 out of 12, let me get public math here correct. And then all 12 counting is the important piece of that, and the consideration that's being asked for by M&M is $70,000. So we heard earlier this evening when we were talking about the distribution of CPA money, that housing becomes an issue, and affordable housing being amongst that. So one of the things certainly I took very personally is how do we see what we can do, knowing that some of this land is going to be developed, and what can we do on the affordable index, if you will. So for the affordable house for the town of Littleton, we increased that by 18 units, 6 of the over 55 and 12 that comes from Goldsmith Street. Now, when you see this chart that's up here now, you may recall that the original single-family units and the over 55 were all on Cooper property. Subsequent to that, M&M has gone and has consummated, or is in the process of consummating, another land deal that takes property that is not Cooper property to put the over 55. That increases the amount of conservation land or open space land that exists on Cooper property. So when we look at Cooper property, and that's what the concern has been all along, is how do we conserve Cooper property as much as possible. We go from an original of 23 units and 12 over 55 to only 23 units on Cooper property. Some would certainly argue not the best deal that could have been attained. I would offer, under the circumstances, I personally feel, and for whatever assurance is my worth to the folks of Littleton, that's what I offer to you. And if that's something that we can bring to closure, because there is some nitnoy details that do remain to be solved, and that deals with the $70,000 and including those 12 Goldsmith Street units in this HCA that we put together, I feel we'll have done the best we possibly can in the good interest of our town of Littleton.
Thank you. Mr. DeCoste.
How do I follow that? No, I think that's a good summary of where we're at and where to move forward.
You know, being part of the negotiation team, as Paul said, it's been back and forth, as negotiations should be. And I think that if we can execute a HCA as Paul described, it's the best we can get for the town. As he said, it's been about the property, the Cooper property, based on what we'll let the M&M describe as their latest plan. Looks like the town gets a great portion of the Cooper property as property to be used whatever it see fit, so.
Approximately 60%, right?
Somewhere around there, I'll let you guys tell us that. So, that being said, floor is yours.
All right,
I'm
thank
sorry?
you. We said we're
already
okay
did.
now. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'm Jennifer Platt. I'm here on behalf of M&M. This is the same plan that we were brought in front of you when we were last here about 7 weeks ago. We've just blown it up, makes it a little easier to see. And you can see, as you know, that the 55 and plus was swung over onto this additional land, leaving all of the open space in the back of the Cooper farm and then all of the frontage around Great Road. Again, it's approximately 22 acres over, it's essentially 2/3 of the property is preserved as open space. And this is more than we've seen on any other open space development coming through town. So we're very proud of this. In terms of the affordable housing, we know that is very important to the town. I would point out that this house up front could be used as affordable housing if that's what the town wants, or for other town purposes. That house is being made as part of the gifts along with all the open space to the town for municipal purposes, as long as it is compatible with all the residential uses and behind it. We would love to see this get wrapped up, and we appreciate your support on it. If there's any questions that the board has, we're happy to hear them.
All right, so for tonight, we are going to have, because we want people in town to be able to have their input, so we're gonna schedule a public hearing at our next meeting to hear about it. If, as Mr. Avella said, those few things that have to be i's dotted and t's crossed can get done, we'll take the vote on the 25th. And that could be a wrap for the HCA. I don't want to turn this into a public hearing tonight. I know there's folks that aren't here tonight that want to speak to this project and the HCA. So I'm going to limit it to not so much a discussion, but a presentation in anticipation of our next meeting.
And if I may add, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman, I spoke with the counsel for the seller today as well, just to make sure, we wanted to confirm that they were on board, because they're an important party to this. And they were most concerned that this space up front was going to be preserved as open space, and if there were any ball fields, they would be up in the front space. As you know, we've tried to structure this to be as flexible for the town and how they use the open space. And as that, our last open piece on the Goldsmith property, the additional units there, I would just say as a caveat, as I've spoken with town council, it would be up to 12 units. If for any reason we don't get the full 12 units approved through permitting, we would still have 25% of whatever was approved as affordable. The goal, of course, is to have the full 12.
We appreciate that.
We were required to have one commercial component of it.
Since it is in the center of town.
Yeah, in the village district. So we have one of our offices there, and then we had 8 units, and then we have 2 units in the building, and then the office. So that would put us at 11.
Okay.
We can make one of the units, 2 of the units, 1 bedrooms. I mean, there's stuff we can do with it, but.
So we can finesse that over the next week with town council.
Okay. Joe, go ahead.
One thing I should point out, I mean, the preservation of the land is very important, and it's the best the town's gonna get, but one of the points I wanna make by including the Goldsmith area is keeping our 10%, and by having that many houses that can be counted as affordable, it prevents us of having another 15 Great Road, and this board is very conscious of that. So getting 17, 18 units that's going to be affordable keeps that number, so we don't get caught in 2020 under 10% and something like that happens again that we have no control over. So that's one of the things that, even though Goldsmith Street is far away from Cooper, I still think it's important for our post-agreement act.
Thank you. Melissa?
Just one thing, I guess, thank you to the negotiation team. Like you said, it's the best we can do with the situation we've got, so thank you both on both sides. That's it.
Again, tonight is a presentation. We're going to schedule a more open and public hearing so folks can participate on the 25th. That being said, you guys got anything else to say, mention? Thank you very much. I'd look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to schedule a public hearing on the proposed host community agreement for the 34.23 acre Cooper Farm property located at 180 Great Road, U05-5-0, for the board's next regular meeting on April 25th, 2016.
Then moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 8A, the Mass DOT Complete Streets Tier 2 grant. Prioritization plan, technical assistant consultant contract. And we're gonna give you one. Do that. Folks, we still have a meeting. Please take your discussions outside. Thank you. Mr. Bergman.
This is a fully grant-funded agreement that the board had voted last month to apply for $43,000 from Mass DOT's Complete Streets program. They responded almost immediately, and we have since received the grant agreement. The scope of it's a very accelerated project to get done. It has the prioritization plan has to be completed by August 1st. If possible, we're looking to have it be completed sooner. Our hope then is to submit for a supplemental grant of up to $400,000 for construction services. So the sooner we get started on this project, then the sooner we'll be able to apply for the grant funding.
I only have one comment, and I'll open it up to the rest of the board. You know, the time in which this was, turnaround time for this was unheard of.
Yeah,
You know,
3 or 4 days, yeah.
Bang, done. So, what that says is the town of Littleton is on MassDOT's radar screen, and they're paying attention. So, that has a lot to do with this board, the town administrator, the assistant town administrator, and all the folks behind the scenes. So, job well done.
Thank you.
Mr. Knox, any comments?
No, just what you just said.
All right. Yes, sir?
I'm excited.
Jay?
What Mr. Hart said about what you said.
You gotta do it now, go ahead.
Just from Mr. Bell said.
Just because you got through a little early.
But kudos, I mean, seriously, this was, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done.
I'd look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to authorize execution of a Mass DOT Complete Streets grant-funded technical assistant contract for a Tier 2 prioritization plan for the town of Littleton in the amount of $43,222.94 with Green International Affiliates, Inc. of Westford.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, next on the agenda, 8B, New Estate Road Reconstruction Contract Administration Change Order. Ah, boy, here we go. So now it starts, Jim, huh? Change orders. Go ahead.
New Estate Road has proved to be a pretty complex project. We've had a lot of conflicts with utilities and adjustment of the plan, so they've basically run through the money already, and we're only a third of the way done. So this is something that we did not want to do, but there's significant utility issues that we couldn't get locations from the utility company, so we're running into a lot of conflicts, which requires redesign and a lot of discussion with the contractor.
So when you say Littleton Electric and Littleton Water, or?
Well, gas company
Gas company.
is part of it, but the water main, a lot of it is the cement that you can't locate, so you just, other than digging test holes through the whole mile of road, you can't find it. So you go by what records were there, and, you know, we're putting a lot of pipe in the ground, so there's a lot of conflict.
Okay.
We're in a 12-foot deep cut right now.
Wow. Is that water also? Is water, new water mains? No?
Jeez, I hate to see that.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that as part of the process in reviewing this, we looked at the closeout of Neshoba and Harvard roads because
Mhm.
they're finally paved and complete. And there's $217,000 in funding that was allocated for those two roads that is unexpended. And part of that is from Green's work, so.
Okay. So you didn't hear that number?
Not sure, because she probably got it from us.
What's the percentage of?
What's that?
Bonnie, what was the total, original total for New Estate? I don't remember.
2 million?
The construction contract, 2.4.
Yeah.
4 million. Okay, I'm not gonna do the public math. $12,000 is a real small number.
Oh, yeah.
And given the complexities of that particular road, its age, and what it was only last year, we even accepted it as a town road, right? because it
This
fell off.
is just for the engineering portion of it.
Maybe I'm jaded because I'm used to federal contracts, but this is,
Of course you are. You're gonna spend more money than anybody. Any other comments, board members? I'd look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve a change order to the contract with Green International Affiliates, Inc. of Westford for resident engineer and construction administrative services for the New Estate Road reconstruction project in the amount of $12,015 for additional construction administrative services, including unforeseen conflicts with the existing water line, additional coordination, and conflicts with the new gas line. The new gas line?
second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Item number 8C, May 7, 2016, annual town election. Execute warrant, direct constable for posting. Members, questions? That's what we do every year. Look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to execute the warrant for the annual town election to be held on Saturday, May 7, 2016, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the Charles Forbes K. Gymnasium, Littleton Middle School, 55 Russell Street, and to direct that the constable post said warrant forthwith.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? I apologize about the annual town report. We had a specific item in our package.
You can do the long form.
We jumped the gun, you know, let's do the long form. Again, a dedication in the annual town report sometimes is not a good thing. It's usually people who have passed and have dedicated most of their time or a lot of their time to the town. And Mr. Peter W. Tierney passed recently, and was the only individual, so. Any comments, members?
No.
I'd look for a motion, please.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to dedicate the 2015 annual town report to the ongoing service of volunteer citizens who contribute to all aspects of maintaining the community of Littleton, whose service has been critical in retaining our small town character and spirit, and include the list of whom we lost in 2015 who served in the town in some official capacity, including Peter W. Tierney.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Set other business. Mr. Clerk, minutes?
We have two sets of minutes to approve this evening. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve special meeting Thursday, March 17, 2016 minutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye. Move the Board of Selectmen approve the meeting minutes from Monday, March 14th, regular meeting.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you all. Thank you all for a great night. I'd look for a motion.
This is a record for you.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
It's all good. It's been moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much and have a good night.